You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it begins. Yes, it is time once again to commence our broadcast week here on the old OIR. And time to kick things off with the bi-weekly options extravaganza known as the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the aforementioned network. Glad to see so many of you are enjoying all the different ways to consume the network content these days. Of course, on demand, pretty much on any device under the sun. If you can't find a way to get it on your device of choice in some crazy way, let us know. We'll see if we can help you out, but it's pretty much available everywhere. Of course, if you want to engage more directly, more immediately, you can get over there to the Plus and listen to all the live. If you like exclusive content that's available only for you, including awesome pro Q&As, we really are bending over backwards to get you guys some awesome guests in there. So pro Q&As every Tuesday, options oddities every Friday, plus a whole bunch more. Got to go pro. That's the place to go. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Of course, however you listen live after the fact, so keep hitting us up, questions and comments. If you like what you hear and one of the after the fact folks, then keep rating and reviewing on your platform of choice. It really does help all the new folks continue to discover the world of options and indeed the network these days. And before we get to who we're hearing from today, it is Monday. It means we have to kick off our broadcast week in 80s style. There's only one way to do that. Can you name that 80s wrestler? There we have it, our 80s wrestler of the week. Now let's go out to our reigning, defending 80s wrestling Name That Tune champion, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. A, welcome back to the program. And B, can you name that infamous 80s wrestler, sir?
Great to be here as always. I'm having a hard time with that one. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to say that he was known as the narcissist. For a while, I'll go with the narcissist Lex Luger.
Interesting. Interesting. Not correct, but interesting nonetheless. This is one I'm pretty sure you've guessed this guy before, which is interesting. But I won't say any more. I'll drop a hint after. Now let's go out to the greasiest of meatballs. The volatility brisket himself, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Brisket / Meatball. A, welcome back to the program. And B, can you pluck from the depths of your brain that 80s wrestler, sir?
Well, Mark, there's going to be a new champion today.
Uh-oh.
That was Hercules.
Hercules. Wow.
With entrance music.
Wow.
With the chain, with everything. That was Hercules.
Interesting guesses, both of you. Lex Luger on one end, Hercules on the other. I thought this one was this is a little bit of a deeper cut, but he was kind of the heel to all the faces you knew in the 80s. This was, dare I say it, the perfect heel. Mr. Perfect. I thought for sure one of you would get this one. Oh, that one hurts. Not me. That should hurt you, both of you.
That hurts me badly.
By the way, bit of trivia. I didn't even realize this when researching for this and trying to pick a theme today. You type in Mr. Perfect WWE, it comes up. He wrestled Brock Lesnar in 2002. I didn't realize they overlapped like that. But I guess they were both from Minneapolis, so they had them both fight. And he beat him. He beat Brock Lesnar in like the early days of his career. Watch that one. It's kind of an interesting match. I actually watched that this morning. I was like, I had no idea Mr. Perfect was even still alive during the Brock. He lived just a little bit. He died I think 6 months later. There you go. Mr. Perfect, an infamous heel from the 80s, listeners, and clearly slipped under the radar. Both of them, I'm pretty sure both of you have guessed Mr. Perfect for other wrestlers in the past. So a demerit for both of you. Did you get it, listeners? Be honest with yourself. Did you know who it was? As we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is going on in the markets today. And, after last week, heading into the end of the week, everyone was kind of concerned about everything that was going on with Mr. Powell. Were they going to taper or won't they taper? Powell comes out on Friday, says they pretty much are going to taper, just maybe not tomorrow. That's enough to send the market just skyrocketing northward. And we're rallying again today, listeners. Most of the major indices pretty firmly in the green, except for the Dow. The Dow is kind of only slightly more than unched, about 0.05% in the green. S&P up about 0.5%, and NASDAQ threatening a full percent. So again, it kind of depends where in the major indices you hang your hat, what kind of day you're having out there. It doesn't really matter, though, from a vol perspective, because they're pretty much all down. VIX is at about a 16.25 when we kicked off the show. That puts it down about 1.5 points from where it was this time on Thursday. VVIX at about a 110, so down about 5 points. But as you will note, everyone who was surprised that VIX won our vol question of the week a couple of weeks ago, is still north of 100, and Bitcoin, last I checked, was not. Then we have VXX at a little bit shy of 26, about 25.90 come into showtime, puts it down about exactly a point from where it was this time on Thursday. And VolQ just eroding away to nothing, down to 14.5, down 1.5 points. If you listen to our great pro Q&A with Scott Nations last week, he broke down some interesting ideas about trading opportunities and just reasons to watch VolQ versus things like VIX. And he just tweeted out after the show last week, actually, that it's in a historic range for that spread, NASDAQ vol to VIX vol. So if you're not checking out those Q&As, you're missing out on some pretty good stuff. At this point, I'm kind of so ashamed in both of you. I kind of almost don't even want to toss it to either of you. But I guess we'll go out to the land of St. Charles first, because at least he was less convicted in his pick. Mr. Uncle Mike, you're the one who requested this contest. I thought for sure Mr. Perfect would be in your wheelhouse, sir. So what do you have to say in defense of yourself, A, and then B, what else is lighting up your tape, sir?
Well, I thought that he actually was one of them I was thinking about guessing. And the reason I went with because the narcissist was brought in to basically be something that was better than perfect in theory. I mean, being narcissistic obviously isn't better than perfect, but that's just kind of the theme with which they went with back in the 80s when they did that. So I thought that with that, you wouldn't give away something that was too easy, like Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. So that's why I wanted to go one step deeper and went with the narcissist Lex Luger on that one. So that's what went through my head on that.
If it makes you feel better, our chat missed it too. They were guessing Macho Man and a bunch of others, though. So there you go. Our chat mostly missed it. My son apparently listening live. He said he got it off the first bat. So there you go. One person got Mr. Perfect out there. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, aside from your deep, deep shame for missing Mr. Perfect, what else is lighting up your tape, sir?
Well, never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better chance to sell than right now. We are at new all-time highs again today in the S&P 500. And I think with everything going on right now, we have the Fed talking about tapering, but also the other thing we need to keep an eye on right now is what's happening down in the Gulf. We do have some bad weather coming that could have an effect on shipping and transporting goods and various things throughout the United States in the next week or two. So we need to keep an eye on that. The market obviously doesn't care, but I do think that's something that we need to keep an eye on. I tweeted about this next point I'm going to make about an hour ago, and I think this is what's really lighting up my tape at this point in time. So we had a nice rally in the morning with the S&P 500, and so I think the reason we're not rallying further at this point is because bonds are telling us not to. So in other words, there's buyers in the bond market, and so we're not getting a rush to risk like we need to really keep this rally going. So the fact that we have both the S&P and the 10-year Treasury both higher on the day, I'm talking about the note itself, not the yield. The yield's obviously down. They work it as an inverse. But the fact that we have buyers in both stocks and bonds right now, I really think that by the end of the day, one of them will have a sell-off. I hope it's the bonds, but we'll see. But I think that there's just the where the money is that's in bonds is not quite ready to rush to risk as of yet. So that's what's holding us back. Within the sector space of the marketplace, no, I made it rhyme without even trying. Sector space of the marketplace. Anyway, what I'm seeing here is we have a lot of this coming from tech right now. We have some rally in consumer discretionaries as well, but tech is something that's really pushing this higher on the day. And I think that we're going to need some more help to continue this rally from the financials as well as energy. Both of those are down on the day today. So until we get some support there, this is just a very heavily tech-driven rally. Apple itself is up over $4 on the day, over the 153 mark. So that's what we're seeing at this stage. And if we want to see a second leg of it, it's going to take more than tech to do that.
All right, listeners, we got our chat saying, Mr. Nichols saying, Mr. Perfect, Bobby the Brain was the best manager of all time. Yeah, that's true. I forgot Bobby the Brain was the manager of Mr. Perfect. Yes, he is indeed one of the best. Mr. Fuji up there blowing the mist and stuff. But yeah, Bobby the Brain, legendary manager. That combo, Mr. Perfect and Bobby the Brain, when they came out, you had some good heel business at work there. Speaking of good heel business, Mr. Meatball, sir, what's lighting up your tape today? See what I did there?
Well, yeah. Well, I'll start with Bobby the Brain was great. Jimmy the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, was pretty darn great. I liked Mr. Fuji, but nobody beat the Slickster. Let's be honest. That guy ruled.
The Jive Soul Bro.
Yes. So nobody beat the Slickster. We all know it. And Jim Cornette was also underrated as a manager. I used to love him with the Midnight Express.
Wow, deep cuts here.
All those other teams. So, yeah, just a lot of good managers out there. They're an under-celebrated group.
Slick had his music video, Jive Soul Bro. That was some of the best music ever written, I think. The Jive Soul Bro. How can you beat that? If you guys want to see some excellent music, Google search or YouTube search Slick singing his Jive Soul Bro.
Yes, love it. So, the markets, yeah, we got ourselves an update. It's an interesting one. We're coming off the weekend, so you'd normally expect the VIX to be up. The VIX is down. Well, with the VIX down after a big, long weekend, you expect there to be a lot of pressure on the volatility futures, and there's not. VIX futures, the September future is flat. The October future is flat. Markets are really strong. As Mike pointed out, Apple absolutely blowing the doors off today. Weekly option volume in Apple is again blowing things up. As we're recording this in Apple, 3 strikes have traded about 450,000 contracts. Think about that, folks. We've got almost 130,000 on the 150s expiring on Friday. We got 165,000 of the 152.5s trading, and 147,000 of the 155s. Those all expire on Friday. That represents over 1/3 of the volume on the day in Apple. The following week, also seeing a nice heavy lift between when you count the 3 call strikes that expired this week and those same 3 call strikes for next week. You're literally talking about half the volume in all of Apple on 6 strikes. That is really interesting and something that has been a trend the last couple of weeks. We've been waiting for this breakout.
Yeah, I'm going to say they've been dumping a lot of money into these weeklies for a while now. They didn't get what they wanted last week. The stock closed at 148.5 on Friday and trended a lot lower. So they did not get the move they paid a lot for last week. So I guess they're doubling down this week. Why not?
Yeah, they are loading up. This thing could easily make a run at 155. We saw the big gamma squeeze pop over 150. They're pushing it over 152. If it gets near 155, look out. I don't know where the top is, but there is definitely some upside here in Apple. Some other things that are moving around. Amazon's having a day, Tesla, Google. Again, your mega cap tech, real popular. AMD blew the doors off to open and then has kind of given things up. And we've got some short squeeze going on between AMC, which is up a nice 10% today. It's up $4. Then we've got BBIG, Mike's favorite, Vinco Ventures. It is up 44% today to $7.68. The borrow rate on Vinco Ventures is off the chains high. We're talking about 200% annually. So there's still some potential upside. And then everyone's favorite SPRT, support.com, is up another $10. We're seeing some more short squeeze on that. We could see the doors. This thing make a run at 150 before all is said and done. But yeah, we've got some real squeeziness. One other under the radar name that's been popping is Peabody Energy. BTU has been a stalwart here. And then, looking across the board, we do have that hurricane to worry about. Thing holding up fixed futures could be non-farms this week, but it's a little odd the way vol futures are bid. And then I know that we'd be remiss without talking about the volatility of volatility. It is below 110 for the second day in a row, which is kind of interesting for where we've been. And that is what I am seeing today.
A lot of interesting stuff to unpack out there. I know a lot of you have been curious about those Apple weekly calls. They've been trading up for size. Have any of you folks been diving in and playing the weeklies? If that's the case, you probably haven't gotten the move you wanted over the course of the last week or so. But have you jumped into the fray again this week? And that's the case. You're getting a little bit of a bang for your buck out there today. Let's break down the major indices before we get into what's lighting up the single names in a little bit more detail here. VIX at about almost exactly half of its ADV right now. So a pretty normal day out there, all things considered. About 205,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV back over 400K, almost 410 out there. So pretty much exactly half of its ADV right now. SPY at about 2.65 million contracts. The ADV about 3.85 or so million out there. S also closing in on 1 million, which is a decent paper for this time of day in the SPX. The ADV is kind of glued to about 1.25 million out there. So it looks like it's going to blow through it there today. The Q is actually looking a little bit lighter, even though they're moving the most today. The Q is at about 837,000 contracts right now. The ADV is about 1.25 million out there as well. And IWM, the small cap flavor of the week out there, at about 385,000 contracts. The ADV 609 out there. So north of half of its ADV out there in small caps as well. Now out to the madness, the fray that is single names out there. Cost you 232,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That gets you to Facebook. I haven't seen Facebook fighting its way into the top 10 in a while. All the meme kids have been kicking it to the curb, but not today. 232,000 contracts, good for number 10. Number 9, getting memey again. It's Wish, good for 264,000. Gonna have a few meme names in our top 10 here today. 264 for number 9 for Wish. Number 8, it's Amazon, 335,000 contracts. Number 8, we're already over 300K. Number 7, NVIDIA. It's kind of been locked in the top 10 of late these days. 375,000 contracts for NVIDIA. Number 6, it's Palantir. Ever since their latest round of earnings, they've been kind of locked in the top 10 as well. 416,000 contracts out there for Palantir. Let's just see what the stock is up to today out there. Palantir up about 40 cents. So not a huge move, about 1.5%, trading right around the $26 level out there right now, but good enough for 416,000 contracts and the number 6 spot on our top 10. Number 5, it's the Symbol Twins. They're back and neck and neck again. Number 5, it's AMD, 448,000. Number 4, we jump up 100K almost to AMC with 540,000. So we're already over 500,000 at number 4. Number 3, it's a newcomer to our top 10 and one of the newer kids on the meme train. I will say newer because they have been around a little bit. We're going to hear more about them in a little bit. This is BBIG, aka Vinco Ventures, what the Meatball was just talking about. Trading right now, 758. I know they were lower than that. We were checking this morning. They were back in the 6 handle not too long ago, but back up again, up to 7 and change. If you're wondering, just a scant week ago, they were trading 246. So they have pretty much tripled in this meme frenzy. A lot of that coming pretty much after Thursday, because on Thursday they were trading 293. Then that Friday they were trading 530, and then they're off to the races again today. So this in the last couple of sessions is where most of that pop happened, and it's good enough for 568,000 contracts. Did you not have BBIG on your meme bingo card? Well, you might want to add it because this thing is popping off out there today. Don't see support out there. SPRT, not seeing that one on our list out there today, which is kind of interesting. But we do see for number 2, Tesla, 772,000 contracts. And number 1, I mean, we just talked about it with all that freaking paper. How could it not be? It's the big dog. It's Apple. It is kind of interesting what is going on with these weeklies. It's almost as if some funds out there just can't all just be, I mean, it could be a lot of retail en masse discovering the joys of weekly call trading out there, but there's got to be some large funds as well. As we speak right now, listeners, 164,000 of the SEP expiring this Friday, 152 halves of trade, followed by about 150,000 of the doubles, the 155s, also going out this Friday, and about 130,000 of the 150s. That's an insane amount. You're talking almost 450,000 contracts just in those 3. That's just insane paper, and all going the way of the dodo this Friday. 155. That's pretty far. That's a good move that it needs to really get this thing rolling out there. We didn't see it last week. We have not seen it so far this week. I think the high today is about 153.25. So needs a little bit more of a run to get to 155. But then again, we have this big of a move. I wonder if they're going to come and dump these tomorrow. If they're smart, they probably will. But we've seen crazy things happen in the premium buying side of the space. So look out below if there are some people coming in to dump these bad boys tomorrow. But yeah, they've been swinging at this kind of, it's not really swinging for the fence. It's more like swinging for a double every week for the last couple of weeks. Seems like they hit one this week. So I guess the third time is the charm out here in Apple land. Let's see what's a charm from an earnings perspective out here this week. What do we got? We got earnings move results reports hot off the presses for everyone's favorites, like Li Auto Inc. This is the Chinese electric vehicle maker. They were before the bell. 29.34 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 7.7%. They delivered 4.4%. So you think China, excuse me, you think China, you think electric vehicle, those two things put together, that should be a recipe for volatility in these markets. But no, less volatility, for about 4.5% out there these days. And we've got Catalent. My goodness, this is a global provider of delivery technologies, drug manufacturing. They do all kinds of stuff. They're based out in New Jersey. Catalent, CTLT, they were before the bell today as well. They're trading right around 130 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 7.1%, so a little bit of juice. They delivered 0.8%. So that's the earnings season type reports I come to expect now in the post-pandemic era, just annihilating the vol. That said, though, I mean, they're still looking at, so far this season has moved up to about an 86%. So interesting. We'll see if it can hold that. It was at about an 84 before, then 82, up to 86 right now. We do have some big names popping off this week, though, listeners, including today after the bell. We've got Stone Cold popping off after the bell today with, let's see, they're at 51.61 going into their announcement. They're pricing in 421, In the past, they've moved 491. So they've kind of gotten the memo out there. Remember, we had this huge size upside trades for a while there in Stone Cold. I haven't heard about them in a little bit on our odd block, but we'll see how they perform after the bell today. Zoom after the bell today as well. 340.81. Man, how that thing has zoomed. Get it? Pun intended out there in the pandemic era. They're pricing in $24.69. Get this, listeners. In the past, they've moved nearly $44. So they haven't quite cut that straddle in half, but pretty darn close to it. Wow. That's taken a lot of blood out of that stone. CHWY. I see boxes whenever I go into the building here for the studio. I see boxes of CHWY everywhere. Everyone's getting CHWY these days. 88.11 is where they were going into there now. So they're popping off on the first after the bell. 661 is what they're pricing in. In the past, they've moved 511. So a little bit extra juice in CHWY. If the legion of boxes, if the old Peter Lynch, go check out their business model for yourself with your own two eyes. If the legion of boxes I've seen is any indication, folks are getting themselves some CHWY these days. Will that translate into more vol in the earnings announcement? I guess we'll find out. Five Below on the first after the bell as well. 214 and about a half is where they were trading. 13.75 is what they're pricing in. In the past, they've moved about 12 and a half bucks. So extra juice in Five Below. You know, you might say that's crazy, but we have seen the dollar segment really get hit. The last couple, Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, did not fare so well. So maybe that's playing into some of this juice we're seeing in Five Below. We got Sienna out there as well on the second before the bell. 57.18 is where they were. Let's see, they're pricing in about 420. In the past, they've moved 582. So taking a lot of juice out of that one. We've got Kirkland's. This is a home decor retail chain, not Kirkland, the brand from Costco. They're on the second before the bell, 19 and a half bucks. They were trading almost 2.5 bucks, pricing in 2.5 bucks. In the past, they've moved 384. So they have come for that vol out there as well. And that's not enough. Some interesting rumors floating around before the bell today, listeners, here about PayPal. PayPal looking at Robinhood and everyone else out there, Webull, and saying, you know what? I think we want to get in on this whole stock meme trading thing. So, yeah, the rumors are out there that they're looking to launch a stock trading platform on PayPal sometime in the near future. They've hired some brokerage industry vets to lead what they're calling Invest at PayPal. So interesting stuff. Maybe a new name fighting into the meme frenzy. Do you like PayPal? Have you used PayPal? Seems like a lot of people, if they have feelings about PayPal, they're usually pretty strongly negative because they've had some issue with a payment or something. Well, would you want to use them for your broker? Hit us up. Let us know. You know, at the end of the day, more brokers is probably a good thing. I can't imagine PayPal is going to leap into the options fray anytime soon, but still, interesting stuff nonetheless. Speaking of interesting stuff, it is time to get to more of it. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's unleash the Eye of Sauron and see where it fixes its gaze today. First, we're going out to the satellite biz. Haven't been out there in a while, listeners. We're going to fix our gaze first upon Global Star Inc. This is an American satellite company here. They provide satellite phone and low-speed data they're similar to the Iridium network, they're saying here. So Global Star Inc., we know you guys love some cheapy swing for the fences, and so does the Eye of Sauron. So it has fixed its gaze out here on Global Star Inc. as well. Ticker symbol GSAT, GSAT. Trading right now, $2.31. If you want to get in on some of this hot meme action, listeners, or just big movement action, GSAT's got you covered today, up 61% or 88 cents. My goodness, this thing was trading $1.40 on Friday. So now trading 232. Let's see, how high did it get today? Looks like it got up to about 236 or so. Wow. Good times today here in GSAT. But you know what? This is not the first time that GSAT has come across the aggressive upside range, shall we say. A year ago, this name was trading 33 cents. You could have bought all the global star you wanted, listeners, back in August of last year for a whopping 33 cents. Then in January of this year, I wonder what happened in January of this year to have some cheap stocks just start exploding. If only there was some event, some catalyst that really triggered this wave of eruptions across. I'm hard pressed to think of it at the moment, but I'm sure it'll come to me after the show. But either way, something happened in January to kick all this madness off. And looks like Global Star got caught up in it because they rallied pretty quickly. From January 5th, they're trading 39 cents. By January 20th, they were trading $1.37. So they had rallied quite a bit. And then they kind of gave it up again down to about 108 and kind of hovered there by February 3rd. And then by February 10th, they had shot up to 240, so higher than they are right now. And by February 17th, they were trading pretty much a 52-week high of nearly $3, 298. So in the span of just a couple of weeks, well, actually a little over a month, because January 4th, they were trading 34 cents, and then February 18th was their high. So yeah, a little over a month, they went from 30 cents to nearly $3. So you got almost a 10x pop, and then pretty much gave a good chunk of that back. By March 8th, they were trading $1.30 again, and then they sold off again. By April, they were trading back below $1.89. Kind of bounced around in this range again, still trading $1.30 or so in June. Then they had a nice little pop in June. June 18th, it went from $1.30 to $1.86 pretty much in a couple of sessions. And they gave that back again. By last couple of weeks, by August 20th, they were trading $1.25 again. And then all of a sudden, back off to the races again. Let's see, they closed, where was it, just last week? Yeah, they were still trading $1.40 last week. So yeah, just a big pop here. So apparently there are rumors that the iPhone 13 will use some of their satellites out there, and that's enough to make this thing just go off to the races. So this is not, apparently, this latest surge is not meme related, but more just some actual news. Whether those rumors are going to turn into fact, we shall see, but that's enough to drive this bad boy off to the races. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. I'm guessing, just given all this crazy meme action and explosion of upside, I'm guessing we're probably going to see some call action. But, I've been surprised recently. We've seen a bunch of names explode upward, and then people come in and sell inputs and stuff. So I'm not gonna be surprised too much if it's something else, but I do expect calls. And look, that is what it is, listeners. It's the AAPL going up 7,684 times for 40 cents, listeners. Let's see, that was lifting the offer. They were actually surprisingly tight. They were 35 cents at 40. So I wonder if they had a resting bid and they lifted it. I don't know, but either way, that's a pretty tight market for this thing. That was, if you're wondering, that's a 205 volatility. And also that is pretty much a 52-week high for this name. So this thing's got to run by October. Yeah, 205 vol. Let's just look really quickly on how much is lighting it up out here today. By the way, if you're wondering now, 7,684 went up in this block, but more have since traded to the tune of 64,277. There's a little bit of action on these bad boys. This is the name that does about 5,800 contracts a day. So a little bit more than that today. 33,000 of the SEP2 halves have also gone up, and about 20,000 of the SEP3. So if you wanted even closer to the 3 strike. So folks are certainly fixated on that 3 strike. What do you guys think about this GSAT? You like it? You want to load up on these bad boys? You want to do some verticals? What are you thinking about here? These are pretty beefy. 60,000, Mr. Meatball, of the AAPL calls have gone up. A lot of things to unpack here. Absurd vol levels, meme moves, Apple-related names, and also the fact that you're paying, 40 cents. So pretty much more, a pretty hefty chunk of the value of the stock already. And in fact, a few months ago, that was the value of the stock. It was trading for about 40 cents. Now they're paying that just for a call for October, Mr. Meatball. A lot to unpack here. What say you, sir?
Yeah, the volumes in this one are off the charts kind of across the board. Already 74,000 of the AAC3s, like you said, those are trading all over the place. The SEP 2.5s are super busy. There's 33,000 of those. The SEP 3 is almost 20,000. The SEP 3.5 is almost over 10,000. This thing is absolutely blowing up. The vol, the normalized vol is now 210%. Why are you buying the OC3s for 45 cents when you can buy the Jan 2023s for $1? Something along those lines where things are a little more logical. Sets up for some really nice spreads, some really nice, basic calls. But clearly this customer thinks this thing is going higher. And I'm not one to argue with him or her.
Does this one come across your gamma radar at all, sir?
It does. It does. Absolutely has. This one's been on kind of our when is this thing going to move list for a while, and is now finally breaking out.
Yeah, I'll dig into these Apple rumors, see if there's some meat on those bones. What do you folks think, listeners? You like this? You're big fans of GSAT buying calls for a month out that are the value of the stock a few months ago. That's the environment we're all living in right now. Speaking of those crazy moves and those crazy meme kids, I said we're going to come back to it again, and we are. This is BBIG, also known as Vinco Ventures. This is, a lot of people are saying this is the newest addition to the meme crowd, and in some ways it is. But on the other hand, if you look at these charts, you'll see, kind of like we were just talking about with our other friend GSAT there, they've actually been bopping around to this party, this beat, for a little while now. Vinco Ventures, ticker symbol BBIG, trading right now 758. Again, had a nice run up about 43% just today, about 230 right now. A year ago, you don't want to know where it was trading a year ago, but we'll tell you anyway. It was trading right around $2. And it kind of hovered there. It actually trended south. Towards the end of the year, it was trading like around $1.11 or so. It got there and then it bounced off the $1.11 level. The low of the year is $1.11, but it was trending lower into the year. Not looking good for them. And they started to rebound by, into January. Again, I wonder what could have caused these names to turn around in January. It's amazing how the GameStop tide just lifted all boats. It's amazing. This one started trending up from $1.11 up to $1.36, $1.50. And then on January 20th, it went from $1.54 to $4.56 on January 21st. That's why I say this one, people think it's new to the meme party, but they've been actually dancing for a little while. It pretty much tripled in one session back in January. That's a good meme-rated palooza. Then it kind of gave it right back. By January 28th, they were trading down to about $3 again. Not off their highs, but still pretty much more than double where they were at their lows. Then they gave up some more. By March 5th, they were trading $2.50 again. Then they kind of bounced in that range for a while. They tried to get back up. They got up to $3.69 on March 26th, then sold it off again down to about $2 again in April and hung out there for a while. Then they went from 2 and change up to 5. Oh, that's how'd they get 5.25 on June 9th. And that was their 52-week high. And they started giving that up again. They sold off again by this past week. They were back down to 2.19. So they had gotten clipped pretty aggressively from 5.25 all the way down to about 2.12 or so. And then this past week, just look out above again. They went from, 220, 250 up to, let's see, that's 761 today. It's showing me a high of $10 here for today. So did it get that high today? Let's see. I don't see it. I see a 934 print for today. I'm not sure, but either way, close to $10. So just insane pop out there. So yeah, BBIG is going to be on our weirdo scan today. It's kind of hard to dodge it. It's funny, so much paper going up out there, it's kind of hard to sift through it all and for the eye of Sauron to fix its gaze on one thing. But it did. They managed to find one block that really raised its eyebrow a little bit. The Jan 11s. Yes, 11s. It brings a smile to my face just to say it. The Jan 11s trading this morning, Mr. Meatball, 4,355 times. Paper gobbling these bad boys up for essentially $4, $3.99 for these freaking things. If you're wondering, that's a 191.5 volatility out there. The stock was a little bit higher when these went up to the tune of $9.62, so $2 north of where it is right now. But still, my goodness, they paid $4. Maybe our Eye of Sauron wants to also highlight just the most painful paper of the day because they 4,355 of these. They paid $4, which, for reference, is almost twice the value of the entire stock just a few days ago. They paid that just for these Jan 11s going out in not that long. An 11 strike. I mean, it didn't even get to that. Oh, my goodness. Now, in their favor, there are earnings between now and January. The next announcement is on November 15th. By that time, if we get to November, this thing's trending in the wrong direction or just hanging out here, they're going to have lost so much of that $4, or it might almost be a moot point. I mean, this thing's got to get to 15, which, again, I laugh. It could be there by the end of the day, but still, that's pretty painful. And you know what? That's not even the biggest trade of the day out there. If you're looking for crazy prints coming into showtime, the SEP 11s were trading hot and heavy to the tune of 60,000 had already gone up. By the time we kicked off the show, even 50,000 of the SEP 7.5s, which are a little bit of a more, dare I say it, level-headed strike. 41,000 of the SEP 10s, 30,000 of the SEP 9s, 29,000, I should say, of the SEP 5s. So those are actually pretty meaty, about almost $3 in the money. 23,000 of the OC 10s, 21,500 of the Jan 10s, and 20,000 of the SEP 6s had already gone up before we even kicked off the freaking show today, listeners. So that's some paper. My goodness. So, Mr. Meatball, a lot to unpack here. Your thoughts in general on BBIG, on this crazy call palooza, and then, if you can, focus your gaze on this 4,000 lot of Jan 11s for nearly $4. I just got a feeling these are probably going to leave a mark, sir.
Yeah, there was just vol was completely mispriced this morning. It was way out of whack. The stock was absolutely blowing higher on a short squeeze. The borrow rate, I calculated this morning, the borrow rate was about 200% per year. Right now, that borrow rate has come back in. It's about 50 cents between now and the end of September. So let me quickly do that back of the envelope. Divided by 19. It's all the way down to 130%. So still really high, but pretty expensive. Yeah, there's just some insane volume on this upside. September has completely blown up. 63,000 of the 7.5s trading, 37,000 of the 9s, 47,000 of the 10s, 72,000 of the 11s. And yeah, those Jans are terrible. If you didn't sell something against it, you are unhappy. This morning, when we first opened, I bought the October 10s and sold the September 11s for, and I paid 20 cents for that spread because the 11s were so out of whack. And this whole thing is just absolutely zany. Upside calls are just the ball's 300%. And you could argue that that's probably still a deal.
Yeah, these are definitely ones to watch. I don't think we'll have to watch them for too long to decide if these work out. Our Eye of Sauron is pretty depth, and it spotted this. Of all the madness of hundreds of thousands of contracts, this 4,000 lot, it really caught its eye out there, pun intended, out there. You guys trading BBIG? Are you watching this insane upside go up? Are you slinging any verticals or ratios or maybe calendars like the Meatball out there? Let us know. Hit us up. This is just, again, I sound like a broken record now, the kind of paper we're seeing out here and just how insane it is. But this is where we are. People are paying double the price of the stock a couple of days ago for a call that's going out in a few months. This is where we are, listeners. And so, you know what? Let's calm down a little bit from that madness. Let's bring you back down to earth a little bit. You can't be all meme frenzy all the time. Let's settle down a little bit with General Mills. Ticker symbol GIZ. You know them. They make all those foods and cereals you guys love out there. Trading $57.92, up about 20 cents. So not quite a meme palooza type name. A year ago, they were trading about $64, so a little bit higher than they are right now. They had a bit of a topsy-turvy year. And they sold off down to pretty much where they are right now, 57 back in September. Then they rallied up to 62 again in October, hung out there for a while. And then they sold off in January. January 6th, ironically. So right when our other names were catching fire, General Mills sold off. They went from about $59 down to about 55, or actually 54 and change. Rallied right back up, had an aggressive V-swing back up to 60 on January 27th, then sold back down again to 54 again on March 1st. And they kind of turned right around again. And by March March 29th was trading $63 again. So a surprisingly volatile producer of cereals and things. And they kind of bounced around in that mid 60s range for a while. Then they went from on June 4th from $64. They sold off by June 24th down to 59 again. And they kind of been bouncing in this high 50s, low 60s range pretty much ever since. They sold off pretty aggressively in the last couple of weeks down to 57.30 on Friday. And then they kind of have bounced since then to coming into today, up about a whopping 20 cents today. So that's where we find ourselves today. Kind of more in the middle, I guess you could say. It's not quite, the 52-week low is about 54. So a few bucks north of that. So lowish middle range of that 52-week range out here. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. Looks like that's enough, though, to spook somebody because they're coming in and gobbling up some puts and some pretty meaty puts. I don't know if they're quite meaty, but they're meaty. The SEP 60s, 6-0. So first off, pretty in-the-money strike that they chose, which is interesting. Going up for $2.75, lifting that offer. They said, give me all of them puts you got. I'll take them all 4,000 times. This is now, by comparison, a lot less vol. This is a 26.5 vol, listeners, compared to our, what do we have, 191.5 and 205% vol. So they can't all be triple digits. 26.5 vol. It's pretty juicy for General Mills. Let's see. The stock was pretty much right around here when it went up, 57.80 or so. And there are earnings, but I do believe they're outside the scope. Yeah, they're a couple of days after the earnings are on the 22nd. So he's going to miss it through these options. So they're paying a lot to hedge themselves or maybe spec to the downside and not even through earnings. They're just getting this through the SEP expiration. So Mr. Meatball, somebody kind of in a bit of a panic to lock in some downside and willing to pay a fair amount, almost $3 for some near-term puts in General Mills, sir. What say you?
Doesn't fully make sense to me, and here's how I know. Is 2 days ago, my wife walked in. She'd gone to Target. She walked in with a new box of Count Chocula. It's that time of the year again, the return of Count Chocula, Boo Berry, Frankenberry. Thankfully, the Fruit Brute and Yummy Mummy are no longer in the General Mills monster cereals, but I don't understand how you could get short when Count Chocula is back.
There's no more Boo Berry? Boo Berry's gone?
Boo Berry's, they still have Boo Berry. They still have Frankenberry. They still have Count Chocula. They got rid of Fruit Brute and they got rid of Yummy Mummy.
Oh, I don't know those ones.
Both of which I hated.
Those are kind of deep cuts.
Yeah, the kind of the deep cuts. But no, I think this is interesting. It's definitely someone looking to put on a hedge or to do something with their exposure to the stock. These are definitely a to-be-watched trade.
Count Chocula puts, dare I say, out here in General Mills. Yeah, this is pretty beefy for General Mills. Somebody's scrambling for a near-term exit here, a near-term hedge. But not through earnings. You think this much juice, you think you'd at least get an earnings announcement in that, but you don't. So a lot to unpack here as we keep on rolling. Now it is time to unpack how the heck did Uncle Mike miss Mr. Perfect? Yes, it is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, it is Monday. Time for that options, wit, and or wisdom. Today, a very special episode of the strategy block. Uncle Mike breaks down the nuanced differences between Mr. Perfect and Mr. Wonderful. Uncle Mike, have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
All right. So Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, he was from Florida. Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, he was from Robbinsdale, Minnesota. Mr. Perfect was the son of, or Kurt Hennig was the son of Larry the Axe Hennig, who actually worked as a tag team for a little while. They got the crap kicked out of them by none other than the Hawk and the Animal, the Road Warriors back in the AWA days. But I digress. That was kind of their origins of it. Mr. Wonderful had a good little run after him and Rowdy Piper lost to Mr. T and Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania 1. Then eventually Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, partnered up with Hulk Hogan for a while, and then they parted ways when Mr. Wonderful was enticed by none other than the greatest wrestling mind of all time. Not necessarily the greatest manager, but the smartest of all time. That's Bobby the Brain Heenan, of course. I joined up with him, and they had one of the greatest feuds in wrestling history. But with that,
you had all that at the top of your head, but you couldn't pick out the theme.
I'm as surprised as you are. So, with all that being said, getting into the strategy block for today, I want to go over the importance of keeping it simple. I've told this story on the show before a few times, but I want to tell it again. And that is, I remember one time I was trading, and it was just before an announcement was coming out. And so I'm like, okay, I want to buy some more Delta. That'll work out. Oh, wait, but I got to hedge this. Okay, that's good. And then I ended up making like 12 trades to try and set up. It was supposed to be a Delta neutral position to where I was trying to take advantage of time decay. And I did so many trades right before the announcement. I'm thinking, okay, I'm finally good. I finally feel comfortable about going into this announcement. And this was, I don't even know how many years, probably 15 years ago, I think it was. And I finally felt good going into this announcement. And then I looked at my position delta, gammas, thetas, vegas, rhos, and everything, and they were all neutral. And so I made it to where I made the trade so complex that I smarted myself, and I might as well have just been flat. So the broker I was using at the time was probably loving me that day. But what I learned from it is that oftentimes when things aren't going our way trading, we try and get a little bit too complicated in that we start to think of ways with which we can protect ourselves. We get a little bit more nervous than we should be. We get a little bit more greedy than we should be. And oftentimes when that happens, it keeps things a little bit more complex than we really need them to be. And so what I want to emphasize today is the importance of KISS, keep it simple, silly, or stupid, whatever one you want to use, I don't care. But keeping it simple is something that will benefit you. One thing that the Viceroy would often say on the show is that no matter what kind of trade you make, whether it's a short premium trade, a long premium trade, a spread, bullish, bearish, neutral, whatever the case may be, you're going to have some skin in the game somewhere. There's going to be some risk. And so no one in the history of America has ever traded and not made money, and has made money without taking risk. You're not going to get rid of risk. Can you manage risk? Absolutely. That's what, quite frankly, this show is all about, is managing risk. But if you're trying to get some type of a gain, you're not going to get it if you're not going to take on some type of risk. Now, is the risk reward favorable? That's the important question with which to ask. Is the risk gone? Well, if it is, then your trade is probably going to look something like mine did 15 years ago when I made everything completely neutral. So what I want to go with on this is that if you are trying to manage a trade and the market doesn't go your way or went too much your way or not enough your way, and you're trying to make this, that, and all these other adjustments, it typically doesn't end well, folks. Try and keep stuff like that to a minimum. And if you're looking to manage risk, ultimately the best way with which to do it, in my opinion, or the best time to do it, I should say, is before you get into the trade. That way, the bullets are not flying. The emotions of the trade are not playing a factor in your decision. If you have the plan before the trade, then it's going to work out better vast majority of the time. Now, if part of your plan is making an adjustment at certain points if certain things happen, that's fine, but make sure you have the plan before you actually get into the trade. Plan the trade, trade the plan. And that is the strategy block. Last one for August.
All right, now we keep on rolling. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody. Looks like our audience, people reacting to the news of PayPal getting into the brokerage space. Nichols says PayPal sucks. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that. Mr. Unlimited, he says, I agree. PayPal is terrible. They seem like a payment for order flow company. Yeah, I think you could safely bet that if they get into the brokerage space, they're going to be selling flow left, right, and center. So just be expect that going in. I think that's a given. Of course, it's not all negative. Louis Zepeda on Twitter, he heard that I was talking about that and said, hey, cool, PayPal's getting into us. I guess he's excited. Speaking of Twitter listeners, we got a new question of the week. And let me quickly pay off last week's as well. We asked you last week, we've seen a lot of turbulence in the market recently. What do you feel is the main driver of this latest round of volatility? Gave you 4 choices: Delta variant, Afghanistan, the Fed tapering concerns, or overall market valuation concerns. And the Fed just roared ever higher. It was 50% towards the end of the week. Then it got up to 55% by the end. So 54.9% to be precise chose the Fed, followed by 19.6% for the Delta variant, and then 13.7% for market valuation and 11.8% for Afghanistan. This week, we asked you some little more straightforward question. Just said, hey, which of these levels do you think we will hit first? Gave you 4 choices. You have VIX of 13, so getting lower on the vol front. A Bitcoin of 60K, so rally ho back again on Bitcoin front. The S&P of about 4750, so between 200 and 250 handles off of where we are right now, depending on where we're vacillating at this exact second. Or gold at about the 2000 level. Hit us up. Let us know your thoughts. You guys can find that at Options on Twitter. Should be available there for you if you're listening after the fact. You could vote, of course, if you're listening live. Get over there at Options. Make your voice heard right now. As we go around the horn, Mr. Meatball, we'll start with you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until our next episode on Thursday, sir?
Well, again, we do have some economic data coming out, obviously. I want to see these meme hard to borrow names. I want to see what happens over the next couple of days. I want to see if vol futures come off between now and Friday. They're still really, really big. The spread between the September future and the cash index is just ridiculously wide. I want to see what happens with this hurricane. Obviously, I'm worried about everyone in the Louisiana area. And let's kind of see what happens through this Afghanistan debacle and what ends up happening there as well. That could be another driver.
And Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on till our next episode on Thursday?
Well, we might make a run at 4,600 this week. It is a possibility. We'll have to have a few good days in the up days in the marketplace. Definitely going to be watching the economic news coming out on Friday with that could be a market mover, and also just watching to see how long within the next, quite frankly, today and tomorrow, stocks in the same day like this. So that's what I'm watching, along with everything else.
All right, listeners, that music means we've come to the end. If you're wondering how our early voting is shaping up and our poll just went live before showtime, it's a tie right now, 38.5% each for Bitcoin at 60,000 and the S&P at 4750. Agree, disagree, get in there at Options. Make your voice heard. And of course, if you want to learn more from each of our cohorts, Mr. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you, sir. Where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW. I try and put out a lot of content almost every day if I can. I'd love to see you guys following me. And if you'd like to learn more about what I do, go to my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for a financial advisor who delves in the options space. That is me.
He's a delver. Just don't ask him about Mr. Perfect because it invokes trauma over there. stcharleswealth.com is the place to go. I'm Mr. Meatball. If folks are intrigued about all this crazy gamma radarness, they want to learn more, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, come to optionpit.com. You should be there every day. I'm posting all kinds of amazing VIX content, all kinds of great education. Come to optionpit.com and learn, and we will make you a better trader.
There you go, optionpit.com to learn more. And of course, if you're listening live, you don't have to go anywhere right now. Put some fun stuff into the live. We'll be back in a little less than an hour to break down all the craziness going on in the world of crypto, the vol, the skew, the changes and unusual activity, all kinds of fun stuff going on out there. Bitcoin, ETH, some altcoin mixed in there, your Qs, and a whole bunch more. That'll be in about exactly an hour. And then, of course, back again tomorrow with a great Q&A. So stay tuned for that. Then we're back again on Wednesday. Actually, tomorrow also you get a dose of the advisor's option. It's that time of the month, listeners. That'll be a good one there as well. Get the Oracle of New Hampshire back on. Then, of course, Wednesday, double dose of education, Options Bootcamp, Options Playbook Radio. Then back again on Thursday for episode 2 of the Option Block. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.